Okay, Year 7, we're up to the last exercise in time, and now we're going to talk about time zones. And this is difficult. This is very difficult. Now, why did we develop time zones? Well, time zones came with the advent of the railway, also ships. And what happened was, with fast transport throughout the world, we needed places to have a coordinated time system. And the country that got there first, much to the chagrin of France, was England. And standard time zones are now all based from a funny little place, well, it's not funny, in England called Greenwich. And that is where we start our time zone. Before we jump in and have a look at why England and why Greenwich and where it is and all those sorts of things, we need to have a think about how we break these up. So the Earth is essentially spherical. Sorry, I need to get rid of that. So, and if we're going to have zones of time running around degrees of longitude around the Earth, if we're going to break up the Earth into 24 different periods, because we've got a 24-hour days, that's how long it takes us to rotate to orbit the sun. So 24 hours, and we've got an Earth that's circular and has 360 degrees when we talk about lines of longitude. Okay, so if we're going to bust that up, 360 divided by 24, I wonder what that is. 360 divided by 24. 15. So that means as you travel 15 degrees around the globe, you've travelled an hour in time. And that's why we have 24 15 degrees lines of longitude, and they're our time zones. Now, what happened was that Greenwich got in there first, and they jumped in, and here it is from Wikipedia, the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, because they got there first. Sometimes we talk about Greenwich Mean Time, GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, but we also use Coordinated Universal Time. And Coordinated Universal Time is a standard time around the world, and it's based on the time zone of Greenwich. Well, let's have a look at the map and you can see it. So here's the map of the world, and if we zoom in, there's 0 and it's Greenwich. Now, not all the lines are straight, so that different countries can belong in the same time zone. So you can see that the lines jump around a bit to match country shape, and it changes all the time. Throughout history, it changes with different countries and different spaces. I mean, Australia, for example, the time zones change to match the states. And then you have little ones like over here. Some places have they're a little square inside themselves, like the Chatham Islands. So this is quite difficult, understanding time zones. Now, I'll come back to that. So our map, and unfortunately when we use a digital one, is broken up into 2 bits, and there's a little map of Australia and there's a little one, and they give, so you can see here, there's United Kingdom and Greenwich, and they're all on 0. Whatever the time is there, everyone moves backwards or forwards from there according to 15 degrees around the globe. So let's have a look at some of the questions as we go through these. And these get really difficult. Now, which Australian states and territories use daylight saving? Now, daylight savings is a way in which we change our time so we can increase the hours of daylight in a working day. The hours of daylight don't actually increase. They do during summer. Like we get more daytime during summer and less sunlight during winter. But the number of hours don't increase or decrease by the way we change our clock. It just means when we wake up and when we go to sleep or when we are doing certain things. So which Australian states and territories use daylight savings? You should have a discussion with mum and dad and your brothers and sisters, and you can go and talk about this. But it changes. And I was worried that the textbook might be a bit dated. So I went to the Australian government's website and had a look. And there they are. The states that observe in Australia daylight saving: New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, Tasmania, the ACT, Australian Capital Territory, and Norfolk Island. These states do not: Queensland, the Northern Territory, Western Australia, Christmas Island, and the Cocos or Keeling Islands. Now, daylight savings really makes this difficult. So we're going to avoid those questions for now. We're going to concentrate on using time zones. And you can see straight away we're going to use the Coordinated Universal Time, or UTC, which is sometimes referred to as a Greenwich Mean Time, but don't confuse it. So, how many hours in front of the Coordinated Universal Time are these countries and Australian states? So if we go up, we can just use this little map. The first one was Victoria. So you've got to know where Victoria is. Now, Victoria is down here, and here's a 10. It's 10 hours in front. All right. Now, what was the next one? This is going to be crazy going back and forth. I should try and remember. I'll just get the Australian ones out of the way. South Australia, Western Australia. Okay. So South Australia is in here, and it's 9.5 hours, and Western Australia is over here, and it's 8 hours. So there's the answer to the first ones. Let's have a look at a country. I think the first one was China. So we've got to find China. Hold on, come on. And there's China. And you can see there's a big fat 8 in China. So China is 8 hours. I think the other one down there was Iceland. Or one of the ones was Iceland. Now, Iceland's not there, so we're going to have to go to this map up here. And you can see Iceland. And Iceland is actually in the 0, in the 0 time zone. They're with Greenwich. So Iceland is 0 hours in front of Universal Coordinated Time. Okay, so you should be able to do those. It's actually quite fun going through the map. The geography department will be very happy that we're looking at maps and dealing with where countries are. It'll take you some time to go through those, finding Eastern Brazil, Peru, Egypt, but you go and have a go. You just look at the map. So we did China. You've got to do Egypt. We did Iceland. You do these other 3, Eastern Brazil, Peru, Colombia. Okay. Let's have a look at this one. And anyone who's done any traveling will understand that when you travel, or if you ring someone in another country, especially if they're a long way behind us, but they might be in the middle of the night, or they might be having breakfast, or they might be in bed. So if it's 10 a.m. Monday in New Zealand, 10 a.m. Monday, what day of the week is it in the USA? So let's go back up here. And here's New Zealand, and it's 12 hours ahead of England. We're going to have to go to the other map to get the USA. And the United States, was it the United States that we had to find? What day of the week is it in the USA? Well, the USA, because it's so big, it encompasses a lot of time zones, all right? But they're behind, right? So these ones are behind. So let's just take the middle one, 6. Now, if in New Zealand it's 10 a.m. on Monday and they're 12 hours in front, if you go 12 hours back to Greenwich, so 12 hours back. So here's question number 3. If you go 12 hours back, it's 10 a.m. on Monday, you go 12 hours back, that'll be 10 p.m. but the night before, so it's Monday, so it'll be 10 p.m. Sunday. And remember, we had to go back another 6 hours to get that other one, 6 hours from there, so then it'll be 4 p.m. still on Sunday. So if it's Monday in New Zealand, it should be Sunday in the United States. They might differ from different states and different zones, but it'll still be Sunday. Okay. Let's just deal with Australia. We'll do that little map, and I'll do a couple of these. So it's 10 a.m. in New South Wales. So 10 a.m. where we live in New South Wales. And we're not going to talk about daylight savings. We're just going to talk about time zones. So this is question 4. In Victoria, what's the time? So it's 10 a.m. and what's the next one? I'll do Victoria, Tasmania and Western Australia. So we go to our little map of Australia here. And there you can see Victoria. Well, it's in the same time zone. So Victoria, if it's 10 a.m. in New South Wales, it's 10 a.m. in Victoria. If it's 10 a.m. in New South Wales, and here's Tasmania down here, it's 10 a.m. in Tasmania. They're in the same time zone. But anywhere in South Australia or in the Northern Territory, they're half an hour behind. So if it's 10 a.m., in New South Wales, you have to go half an hour. It's 9:30 a.m. in South Australia or Northern Territory. And if you're in Western Australia, it's another 2 hours behind us. We're 10 hours away. It's 2 hours behind us. And I like to think about when I watch a test match or cricket or a rugby game on TV from Western Australia, and it can be dark here, but it's still daylight over there. So it's 10 a.m. here in New South Wales. They're just getting up and having their breakfast before heading off to school. It's 8 a.m. in Western Australia. So that's how it works. Remember, if you're going to the left, it tends to be it's going backwards. And if you're going to the right, you're going forward in time. For example, when I watch some of the cricket or netball or rugby in New Zealand, it might be 5 o'clock here. It might be 5 o'clock where I am in New South Wales. But over in New Zealand, they're another 2 hours in front of us. It's 7 p.m. All right, so 5 p.m. here, 7 p.m. So you go forward 1 hour, 2 hours to New Zealand. Whereas if it's 5 p.m. in New South Wales, you go back 1 hour, although it's only half an hour in South Australia, but 2 hours to Western Australia, it's 3 p.m. You go back 2 hours. Okay. Let's go on. Let's do some harder questions. And this is quite a difficult topic. So we've had a look at questions 1, 2, and 3, and 4. I'm going to only do 1 or 2 more because there are so many varied questions here and you need to have a go. And if you're having trouble, you can speak to your teacher or email your teacher, but otherwise, or email me and I'll make a YouTube clip of it. Otherwise, some of these are hard. And we're only meant to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay? So question 4, there's a 10 a.m. Question 5, it's the same. When it's 4:30 p.m. in Western Australia, what is it in the following states? You count forward. Let's take 6 and 7. I'm going to do a couple of these. When it's 10 a.m. UTC, that's Universal Coordinated Time. I think that's what it stands for, Universal Coordinated Time, I'm pretty sure. Let's double check. We want to make sure we're right. Coordinated Universal Time. So it's 10 a.m. in England. Well, let's just go and check out what it's going to be somewhere in Australia. So let's go Tasmania because they're the same as us. It's 10 a.m. and how many hours in front are we? We're 10 hours in front. So it's 10 a.m. Universal Coordinate or Coordinated Universal Time, or in Greenwich in England. We're 10 hours in front over here in Australia, in Tasmania. We have to go 10 hours. So you can count on your hand and go 11 a.m., 12 a.m. and count another 10 and go, oh, okay. So 10 a.m., what I like to do is I'm going to go 12 hours forward. That'll take me to 10 p.m., 12 hours forward, and I'm going to go 2 hours back to 8 p.m. So going 12 forward and 2 back. Because going forward 12 is very easy when you're on the hour because you just go from the AM to the PM. So I go 12 forward and 2 back. So in Tasmania, which was 6C, it should be 8 p.m. and that's right. Let's have a look. I'll do some of these other ones. They're going to be hard. So Spain and Argentina. Well, let's go and find them on the map. Spain and Argentina. Well, Argentina is in South America. There it is. And it's 3 hours behind. So let's remember that. And we'll get rid of that. And Spain, it's going to be, is it going to be easier? Maybe I should choose a different one. Here's Spain. And Spain is 0. So Argentina's 3 hours behind and Spain is in the same time zone. So let's go back and do those 2 questions. So that was 6C, 6A, Spain. It's 10 a.m. in Greenwich. Well, it's in the same time zone, so 10 a.m. in Spain. They've got 11 a.m. Did I misread that? Is Spain 1 hour in front? I must have misread that. I looked at the map and I saw, oh no, it's just outside. Is it? Yeah, it looks to be, yeah, it's 1 hour. So it's 11 a.m. Got to look very carefully. So 11. So add 1 and it's 11 a.m. Now, Argentina, so E, it was behind. It was 3 hours behind. So 10 a.m. and I have to go back 3 hours. So 9 a.m., 8 a.m., 7 a.m. Argentina, if it's in coordinated universal time, it's 7 a.m. in Argentina. You have a go at the other ones. It's interesting finding out where they are. Darwin's in Australia. Good luck finding some of those other countries. It can be a good activity. Now, what about in our time? So if it's 3:30 here in Australia, in New South Wales, and remember, we're 10 hours in front. So the United Kingdom is Greenwich Mean Time. So let's do that one. Let's create a bit of space here. Hopefully you're making neat notes. Mine was a bit messy today. I'm going to try and fix that up. So in question 7, A, it's 3:30 p.m. in Australia. And the United Kingdom, we have to go back. We have to go back 10 hours. We have to go back 10 hours. Well, that's hard to do. I could count. But why don't I go back 12 hours? So if I go back 12 hours to 3:30 a.m., so I'll go back 12 hours and then come forward 2 hours. So 4:30, 5:30 a.m. The previous day. So 5:30 a.m. and it's the day before. So if you finish school at 3:30 and you have a friend that you want to call who's in somewhere in the United Kingdom, and you say, I'm going to give them a call at 3:30, they mightn't be up because it's only 5:30 in the morning. Let's go and have a look at Perth. Well, we've already done that. 3:30, so D, if it's 3:30 in New South Wales, we have to go back 2 hours because they're 2 hours behind us. So we go -2. So we go back 2:30 p.m, 1:30 p.m. And that's in WA, in Perth. We talked about New Zealand. Let's have a look at Japan. All right, so we'll go and have a look. Where is Japan in the time zone? So Japan's just above us. There's Japan. It's 9 hours. So it's only 1 hour behind New South Wales. So if it's 3:30 p.m., so this is E. If it's 3:30 p.m., we've just got to go back 1 hour. So back an hour, and that takes us to 2:30 p.m. in Japan. I'll do one more. You should be right with these now. I think I'll do Sweden. Always wanted to go to Sweden. Now, you better find Sweden. It's one of the Nordic countries. Oh, look at it. It's up here. It's going to be hard because it's right in the middle. Let's make sure we get the right spot. There it is. Now, Sweden is 1 hour in front of universal time. And we're 10 hours in front. Okay. So to get to Sweden time or Swedish time, we have to go back 9 hours. So here's C. It's 3:30 where we are, and we have to go back 9 hours. I'd rather go back 12 to 3:30 a.m. and then come forward 3, because I only have to count 3 steps. So that's 4:30, 5:30, 6:30 a.m. in Sweden. You could have counted back 9 hours on your hands from 3:30, but I just reckon it's easier to do it that way. Okay, so that's using time zones. It's really difficult. There's a challenge there. Try and see if you can work out question 9. And I don't think we did question 8. No. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9. Finish off the ones that I didn't do. Take your time to go through the map and find out where these countries are. It's very good. And then you'll be finished for the rest of the week.